Let's imagine you just got sent back to the Amazon 15 million years ago. You'd probably expect something like what you see today. A dense, green, impossibly alive jungle, the air thick with heat, and the sound of howler monkeys. But what you'd actually find is a giant lake. Just a warm, dark, murky expanse of water the size of a modern country, sitting in the middle of a continent that has absolutely no business having a sea. It feels wrong, and here's the thing, it kind of was. The Amazon today is the most dominant river systems on Earth. It moves more water than the next 6 largest rivers on the planet combined. The Nile, the Mississippi, the Congo, the Ganges, the Thames, the Yangtze. Throw them all together and the Amazon still wins. It is a force of nature so overwhelming that people have called it the last frontier on land. Over 600 million votes named it one of the 7 new wonders of Earth. But the Amazon we know today, the forest, the river, the whole thing, is actually a relatively recent invention. Because for millions of years before any of that existed, this entire region wasn't a rainforest at all. It was something else entirely. Something that makes the modern Amazon look, and I want to be careful with my words here, kind of boring by comparison. It was a giant lake, or more accurately, a giant wetland so enormous and so bizarre that scientists named it the Pebas system. And for roughly 20 million years, it was the most terrifying body of water that has ever existed on this planet. So how do you accidentally build an inland sea in the middle of a continent? The answer is geology being reckless. About 21 million years ago, during a period called the Aquitanian, the Andes Mountains were doing what young mountain ranges do, growing. Tectonic plates were grinding together and pushing the Andes higher and higher. And here's where the problem starts. As those mountains rose, they began to act like a wall. The natural westward drainage of the continent got blocked. Water that had nowhere to go started pooling in a giant basin to the east of the Andes. The mountains had essentially turned an entire chunk of South America into a bathtub, and then it just started filling up. Now, scientists still debate exactly what this looked like at its peak. Was it one enormous lake? Multiple connected lake systems? A massive marsh? The honest answer is we don't fully know. But we do know it was wet, it was vast, and at its largest, it dwarfed modern Japan. In certain spots, the water reached depths of 50 meters. That's 150 feet of water above your head. So if you can't swim, this is not the prehistoric vacation for you. But here's where things really go off the rails, because the Pebas system didn't just sit there being big. It had a peak era, a moment of maximum chaos. And that moment arrived during the middle Miocene, around 15 to 17 million years ago, during an event called the Miocene Climatic Optimum. Global temperatures spiked, roughly 3 to 4 degrees Celsius warmer than today, across the entire planet. Now, that might not sound like much, but to put it in perspective, it would be like picking up Portugal and dropping it into the climate of modern-day Syria. Hot. Very, very hot. This heat did 2 things. It made the Pebas system expand to its absolute maximum size, and it made the cold-blooded animals that lived inside it absolutely enormous. Because here's the thing about reptiles, they're powered by external heat, and when you give them a warm, food-rich, essentially limitless environment and crank up the thermostat, they don't stay small. They grow and grow and grow. And what was growing in the Pebas system was crocodilians. If you think the Nile has a crocodile problem, or the Everglades, or Australia, and they do, the Pebas system would make all of them look like a duck pond. Fossil formations from the Pebas period show a diversity of crocodilians so extreme that Crocs outnumbered bird species. Let that sink in. In the Pebas megalake, you were statistically more likely to encounter a crocodile than a bird. That is not a place you want to go swimming. That's not even a place you want to look at. And because there were so many crocodilians, evolution started getting creative with them. Different species carved out different niches. Some were small, dog-sized, almost cute. But cute in the Pebas system just means they were designed to hunt something specific and smaller than you. Several others matched or exceeded the largest crocodilians alive today. And then, towering above all of them, was the undisputed king, the Purussaurus. There are no words that fully capture what this animal was, but we're gonna try. The first fossils were discovered in 1892 in the Amazon basin. Paleontologists pulled out skull fragments and immediately knew something was wrong. Not wrong like a mistake, wrong like the universe had made a decision they hadn't approved. The skull alone measured nearly 5 feet long. The bone was absurdly thick, almost box-like, built for forces that most animals never need to generate. The body attached to that skull was a minimum of 30 feet long and over 6 tons in weight. Conservatively, some estimates push it to 42, even 52 feet. Heavier than a mink whale, potentially the largest crocodilian that has ever lived. And it bit things with a force of 69,000 newtons. To give you a reference point, a T-Rex, the most famous predator in history, didn't hit numbers like that. The Purussaurus had a bite stronger than a T-Rex, delivered by 2-inch teeth that were curved, double-edged, and thick enough to crunch through bone without chipping. And despite weighing multiple tons, it almost certainly performed the death roll, the move modern crocodiles use to literally tear prey apart limb by limb. Buffaloes. Modern crocs do that to buffaloes. Don't think about what Purussaurus was doing to things. It wasn't confined to one corner of the system either. Fossils appear in rivers, floodplains, and lake environments across the entire Pebas Formation. If there was water, there was Purussaurus. And if there was Purussaurus, nothing else was safe. But it wasn't alone. The Pebas system ran a full murderer's row. There was the Griposuchus, a gavial-type crocodilian stretching over 33 feet, with a long, narrow skull designed for hunting massive fish. Though, given its size, the occasional land animal probably ended up on the menu too. Then there was the Morosuchus, possibly the strangest of all three. It was also enormous, 31 feet, over 4 tons. But its skull was wide, flat, and elongated in a shape that paleontologists describe as duck-like. A 31-foot, 4-ton duck-faced crocodilian. Scientists think it may have filter-fed through muddy river floors, sifting up mollusks and fish and invertebrates. Still, not something you want to share a river with. At least a dozen other crocodilian genera lived in the Pebas system alongside these 3 giants. The ecosystem was essentially a crocodile sorting algorithm where every animal that existed had a specific crocodile assigned to hunt it. But life, as someone said, finds a way. And the other animals of the Pebas system responded to the crocodilian nightmare the only way evolution knows how, by getting gigantic themselves. The fish grew. Species of freshwater stingrays rivaled the heaviest ever recorded. Drumfish and croakers grew to human-sized. And then there was the turtle, the Stupendemous. The name comes from the word stupendous, which is exactly right, because the shell alone, just the shell, measured nearly 10 feet across. The whole animal weighed over a ton. It is the largest freshwater turtle ever discovered, and one of the largest turtles, period. And we actually have direct fossil evidence of what life was like for it, because multiple Stupendemous shells have been found with embedded crocodilian teeth punched straight through them. The Crocs tried. In those cases, the shell held. The turtle lived. It wasn't defenseless either. Its beak was curved and powerful, and paleontologists believe it was a generalist predator. fish, mollusks, snakes, smaller crocodilians, a one-turned turtle that ate crocodiles for snacks. Alongside it lived the Carbonemus, a smaller but deeply aggressive genus with an alligator snapping turtle-style hooked jaw. Scientists believe it was highly carnivorous and highly temperamental, the kind of animal that doesn't wait to be threatened before it attacks. Even the turtles were unhinged. And then you get out of the water thinking you're safe. You're not. The land surrounding the Pebas system was dominated by two groups of predators that had no right to be as terrifying as they were. First, the Sebecids. These were crocodile relatives, but don't picture a crocodile. Picture something with the long limbs of a large mammal, the skull and teeth of a meat-eating theropod dinosaur, and the ability to run. Fully terrestrial, fully mobile, and the largest of them, found in the Pebas system, was the Barinasuchus, a Sebecid that reached 25 feet long and weighed around 2 tons. Running. A 2-ton, 25-foot crocodile relative that ran after things on land. Some estimates push it toward 33 feet. Either way, it is among the largest land predators since the non-avian dinosaurs went extinct. A genuine all-time contender. Second, the terror birds. Flightless, fast predatory birds standing over 8 feet tall and weighing as much as a lion. They had no teeth, but their beaks were thick, curved, and built like an axe. They chased prey down on those long legs and delivering killing blows with the beak. The terror birds thought they were apex predators, and then the mega crocs ate them anyway. We have the bite-marked bird bones to prove it. Somehow, despite all of this, herbivores existed. Mammals clung on. Giant rodents the size of polar bears grazed near the water's edge. At least 10 genera of ground sloths, ranging from large dog-sized to Asian elephant-sized, wandered through the floodplains, the 4-ton Uromachia among them. Giant hoofed animals resembling hornless bison and rhinos moved in herds. Anteaters with skulls that looked structurally incomplete. Primitive primates. Bats. And in the water, a river dolphin, the Pabanista, that was 30 to 35% larger than any river dolphin alive today, with a reinforced skull and thick teeth and highly muscled attachment points all over its skeleton. A dolphin that was built differently. A dolphin that paleontologists describe as having lived a raptorial lifestyle, a hunter. The Pebas system was so murky, so deep, so full of silt, that visibility in the water was essentially zero. You could hang your arm over the side of a boat and see nothing. And somewhere in that darkness, below you, a 1-ton plus predator was listening for you with echolocation, its reduced eyes perfectly adapted to a world without light. So, what killed it? What do you do to end the most extreme freshwater ecosystem that has ever existed? You drain it. The same Andes that created the Pebas system eventually destroyed it. The mountains kept rising, and at some point, they rose so high that the bowl that had been trapping all that water developed a leak on the other side. The water that had been filling the basin for millions of years began draining eastward. Environments shifted. Species moved or died. The wetland shrank. And at some point during that drainage, the water that became the Amazon River was rerouted entirely. It used to flow toward the Pacific. Because of the Andes rising, it now flows the opposite direction, toward the Atlantic. The entire flow of the largest river on Earth got reversed by a mountain range still deciding what height it wanted to be. The Pebas system emptied out. What remained was the Amazon and its tributaries. The forests came. The soil filled in. The ecosystem we know today, the one we call the most biodiverse place on Earth, was built on the bones of something far stranger. The Pebas mega wetland existed for roughly 20 million years. In that time, it produced the largest caiman ever, the largest freshwater turtle ever, the largest river dolphin ever, the largest land predator since the dinosaurs, and a suite of creatures so extreme they still don't have a real comparison today. all in one spot, all at the same time. And underneath all of it, underneath the modern Amazon, underneath the forests and the rivers and the extraordinary life we're still discovering, all of that history is still there, buried in the sediment, waiting. Which honestly makes you wonder what else is down there that we haven't found yet. And that might be the scariest part of all.